Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I'm your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
Hey, y'all. We're going to have fun tonight.
Before we get started, I do want to give a little disclaimer, and I apologize in advance. I unfortunately suffer from migraines. And today is one of those unfortunate days where I suffered from migraines. I've taken my meds. They're not doing all that well, but I am able to function. But with the inboxes and stuff like that, there was no way I could actually just cancel the show. And I'm going to push through. The content will be there. My energy probably won't. Please do not decide not to ask any questions or participate. You all may very well give me the energy necessary to be who I need to be for this particular platform. But as we typically start, Michelle, what do you have going on? Anything you want to share you're doing?
Actually, I'm working on Queen's Moves again. Queen's Moves is going to be, which is a course that I teach for people in transition. It's typically a retreat, but I've adapted it to an online session. And on December 7th, we're going to have a workshop for 2 hours. And you can register for that by going to queensmoves.net. Had some great success over the past couple of sessions that we've had, and just trying to expand the audience and being able to kind of serve people and sharing the wisdom that I've experienced from going through several transitions in my life. So I'm kind of excited about that. I've been working on landing pages, posting some things, and encouraged by this interaction. As you know, iron sharpens iron. So, I've been encouraged to step out a little further. Was already out there, but step it a little bit further out. So I'm kind of excited about that.
You should be. You should be. And those who are going to attend should be very excited as well. Confident the quality of the content and information that will be shared will be empowering and enlightening. So I'm excited. I almost wish I was a queen so I could move.
I might have you as a guest on there just to kind of insert this relationship piece because, it's a huge piece of our lives and it does contribute to our transition, right? So relationships are not only romantic relationships, but relationships are across the board. So the keys that we kind of talk about here, for me, I tend to use them in the area of my expertise, which happens to be strategic planning and business planning and professional planning. So those relationship keys that we talk about, I tend to apply in that arena. So the Queen's Moves is really about where are you trying to be to make your next best move, whether that's personal or professional, and evaluating what your drivers are, what are your blocks, where are you emotionally, what may be hindering you from doing that. I learned my personal relationships have benefited from just doing the work, I didn't start on romantic. I started with my professional stuff, but then you and I started working on the personal romantic vulnerabilities and, being open and transparent and not being afraid. And those lessons have kind of bled over into my life. And really, I've been able to use some of the things we talk about here to help other people as well.
That's awesome. And she's definitely the go-to and the expert in the space of professional development. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, No Love Simulation, No Love Inc., none of that would be without Michelle Larkin. She is the one that forced me to believe in myself and the vision that was given to me and to write it down, make it plain. When I was that person that was like, I don't feel right about sharing this information or my book and charging for it. And she was like, you were given this information to live from. And she made me write stuff down and put my ideas and stuff to paper. And there were countless visits to Panera.
Yes, how many hours did we spend in Panera writing stuff on our whiteboard and like, come on, man, get it together.
And her picking my brain and just forcing me to take action of my thoughts as opposed to just hoarding them in my mind. So I can assure you that she's definitely what she likes to call herself a surrogate of
A midwife of dreams.
a midwife. There you go. I'm sorry, a midwife of your dreams until it is born by the assistance of you. So I highly recommend that if you have not signed up for that and you are a queen or an aspiring queen or a princess who wants to be a queen, to actually partake in that offer that she's sharing with you all. Could you share that again, please? What it is, where is that?
December 7th, I'm hosting a free webinar for women in transition called Queens Moves. You can register at queensmoves.net. And this time, last year it was learn to make your next best move, but this year it's about inside the mind of a queen and really getting your internal messaging, your core correct, and understanding how to wear the mantle of authority with grace and class, and move smoothly through, your transition. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I hope you all join. It'll be fun.
Awesome. As far as No Love is concerned, I'm definitely still out there working on the production of the board game. Or the simulation, that seems to definitely be a thing. People are asking about it. People are asking for it. So I definitely have to produce that. That is another thing that I had been shying from. Again, me producing things that people typically have to make a transaction for has never been my comfort zone, because to me, I feel if it was given to me for free, that I shouldn't have to charge, which is why there's a free version via the app. That is the Android version as well as the actual iOS version coming sooner than later. But the board game, which will cost, or simulation. Simulator is definitely something that's been asked about and requested. And because of the minimal amount that I have, I can only allow for people to borrow them at this point. And people are utilizing them and sharing and using it among their respective communities and giving feedback. So really excited about that, but I definitely need to clearly produce that and get it in a place where you all can partake in the tangible version of the simulation. With that being said, let's get into this topic. Again, I apologize for my energy, but the content I can assure you will be there because the content has been researched, holes poked through, and all kinds of things to make sure that by the time it gets to you all, I am not killing you, because words are either giving life or they're speaking death. So I refuse to be a platform whereby I am speaking death. So I definitely put in the necessary work and pouring into studies and research. With me, that would be typically the Bible, to make sure that what I'm sharing with you all is beneficial to you all, and again, speaking life. So let's jump into the topic. The topic at hand, the title of discussion today is Your Village is Your Vision. I repeat, your village is your vision. Good evening, Mr. Henry Sneed. Miss Lisa Bond said she's registering now. She also said that you are intentional. I agree with that 100%. Lisa Bond says, hello, family. Yes, we are. We are all family. So, hey, cuz, hey, sis, hey, whatever aspect of the family you want to be.
On my Facebook page. So, hey, to all those people who joined, thank you so much. I waved, but hey.
Yes. So, again, energy is going to be, this is a word that I use a lot, trash, because I have a migraine. So if you see me grabbing at my neck or twisting my head, it's just me pushing through, and I appreciate your patience with me as I do so. So the title at hand is Your Village is Your Vision. I can't stress this enough. Your village is your vision. And indirectly, what you'll find as we go through this, I've shared this information with you. Just like, there's only three sides to a triangle. So we've clearly shared everything that we will be discussing from this point forward, but it is the different ways that it's presented that oftentimes allows for people to actually get it. So it's that one word could literally change your life, or that one show could literally change your life, or that one thing that is said could actually be that aha moment to allow for you to get and understand what it is that you've been studying or being a student towards. And speaking of that, #9, for those who are new, this is a part of our culture. When we get an aha moment or something that we consider truth, we share a #9, and then we share whatever that aha moment was, as well as, and the meaning behind #9 is 9 is a number of truth. Number of truth, because 9 multiplied by any number, the sum total of that answer at its simplest form, if you add it all up together, it will be 9. So I always use 9 times 11 is 99. 9 plus 9 is going to be 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 times 3, 27. 2 plus 7, 9. You can do that with any number. I don't care how many numbers you want to put and multiply by 9. You cannot escape truth. Truth. There's certain things that are facts. There's some things that are true, but truth cannot be hidden. You cannot get away from it. It always is, and the number 9 represents that. So anytime you hear Michelle say, "Hold on, wait a minute," #9, say that again. That's what she's referencing. If you ever see anyone that is on our live on Facebook putting a #9 and then they share, or just put a #9, you would have to know what they're talking about or think about what was just said for you to understand where it comes from. If they don't share what was said that caused them to or inspired them to share the #9. So your village is your vision. What does that mean? First and foremost, your village, that is typically where you go to, where you reside daily, where you go and you feed off of information and you see things, which in turn causes you to conclude how life is, which is very dangerous if all you see is your village, because oftentimes you don't have anything to compare it to see a contrast or anything of that nature. But in the context of this show, because I don't want anything to ever be received out of context, when we say village, is somewhere that you are daily going to continuously, intentionally, but continuously, in a place where you kind of reside or grow from and receive your nourishment from. So your village is your vision, and what you're watching and listening to influences your thoughts, and your thoughts produce your desires, and your desires drag you into the direction that you go. I'll say that again. What you are watching and listening to influences your thoughts, and your thoughts produce your desires, and your desires drag you into the direction that you go. Your desires are all stemming from, they're dragging you based off of your desires. Your movement, your actions, they're based off of your desires. Either the desire to have or the desire not to have. That is literally why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, and it's based off of a desire. But that desire came from and stems from a thought, and that thought came from something you were exposed to, whether it be audibly or whether it be visually. So the first thing I want to discuss is the people that are in your village. Because again, your village is your vision. One thing that people typically don't think about, because of course we all know and have heard of the concept, birds of a feather flock together. We all know that. We've heard that. Typically means you are who you hang around with. But in the grand scheme of this whole village thing, please be mindful that there's always a common denominator in your village, and that's you. You are a contributor to the village. So we need to first start with yourself. you are who you see. You are the person that allows what you're watching to be watched, allows what you're listening to be listened to, and that in turn causes your thoughts. So you have, it's very interesting that I'm even having this conversation. Just yesterday, I was about to go to the store, and my daughter's response to me was, "Dad, is this a personal time trip?" And it kind of threw me off. And I was like, "Oh, are you saying you want to go with me?" She said, "Yes, I would like to go with you." Now, the backstory behind that is my children and my family know that I teach you must have self-time. You must have time where you are what I call what do I call it? Filling your well. Y'all hear me say that off and on here. You have to fill your well in order for you to pour out. Oftentimes, especially as parents or teachers or mentors, or in business, you're always pouring out. So you're pouring into other people, and ultimately you'll be depleted if you're not rejuvenating yourself. Or so you have to pour into yourself, but you also have to investigate and sense where you are in self. And it's 9 times out of 10 people do not spend time with themselves. And my daughter knew before she interrupted my self time. She didn't even ask. She because she's a selfless individual. Her thought process was, I'm not going to ask him until I know that this is time to spend with him. Now, I'm intentional about spending time with her, and I'm intentional about spending time with my wife. I'm intentional about spending time collectively as a family. I literally set that time aside. So she wanted to know before she, I guess, what imposed.
Inserted herself into quality time.
Yeah, exactly. Just threw herself into quality time with myself as to whether she should ask, could she spend quality time with me, which was great because it just shared that what I teach is being planted and it's also being harvested. So I said, no, this is not a time. And actually it was also a teachable moment because in also a place where I realized growth in myself is because when I taught her that, I was at a place where I only had a day where I did that. And a lot of people don't realize I love to iron, and I iron every single day. I love to cook, and I love to go grocery shopping. Now, the reason why I love these things, and typically people don't, is because those are things that people do not want to do with me. So those are
nobody's gonna bother you when you iron it because they don't want to iron.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that is time with and for myself. And those are the things, those are the moments that I would allow for myself to spend time with myself and just think, be in my own mind, be in my own thoughts, reflect on what I feel about different things and talk about things that I've encountered, or reflect rather on things that I've encountered and grew from. So from there, I literally had set days. So my daughter, I had to explain that to her. This is why you don't go with me on this time. This is why I don't have you go on that, because this is my time. And you need to make sure you have your time, because I see you just while I'm watching you get a lot of stuff. People are chewing off of you. They are just eating off of
your daughter has star power and
your information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I noticed that, and I said, and if you do not replenish, you are going to be struggling, and you're going to get frustrated and upset. And most importantly, it's going to be you that is going to be sharing. The last thing I ever want to be is a person that is on this platform speaking. I know you all see me speaking, but what I can assure you is I'm so into the word and the place that I'm researching. It's not me. I'm just a conduit when I share the information. So I say all that to say you have to be mindful that you are a contributing factor to your village. So we can't always blame how our outcomes or views are on the external contributors to our village, because we too are the contributors to our village. So we have to definitely self-reflect. I see you writing, so I do want you to share so I can go from there. Go ahead.
Well, what I was sharing is like you said that people don't often spend time with themselves, but to your point, I think that we are sometimes alone or without other people, but we're not with ourselves. We're not taking time to take either inventory or to reflect or to take be aware of what the thoughts are or what our feelings are. But we are sometimes alone,
Yeah.
and sometimes even intentionally alone. But as a coach, life coach, I can tell you that you can ask some probing questions of people that they have never considered, just because they've been by themselves and been so focused on being lonely or alone that they missed the opportunity to take the time, like you're saying, with your ironing and with your other things that you do, to take advantage of that mental space, which I think is what we always talk about is, be intentional. But you got one life to live. So these little moments when you take some time with yourself, which is this awesome gift that we have, it's an awesome time to take advantage of it, is basically what I'm saying. Like, I think people do spend time alone, but not with themselves.
I agree. And not to mention, so when you spend time with yourself, if you're not spending time with yourself, you can't really tell how your village is impacting you or influencing your thoughts. One thing that I get quite often, for those who actually have been added to my circle or start spending a lot of intimate time with me, is that they get people who know me, who have been around them, or they were like, you've been around Eddie too much, or you starting to say stuff. Yeah. So people start to look like you, and they start to say things that you say, because and without even realizing. I literally have people that talk to me like, oh my gosh, you are in my head, or I thought about this the way that you thought about that, or I said this, or it says I've often been alone but never lonely. That's good, Mr. Henry. Hey, Aunt, that's my cousin. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. We do need to chat offline, get caught up. I hope life is treating you well. Spending time with yourself if you're doing it properly, it allows for you to see how much of an impact that you are having. And those people who even share like, oh, I was sitting with myself and I heard myself saying, asking myself, I heard you saying this, because they're now, without even realizing, because it's just a habit. If you are around me, I can assure you what you're going to start doing is thinking is one. One thing you're going to do is start thinking. Two, you're going to start self-reflecting. So with that, it's because you have now added yourself to my village. And because of that, you now start to adopt my culture, so to speak. And my culture is thinking. My culture is love. My culture is inspecting what you expect. My culture is just being present, as opposed to just haphazardly living and just existing. So you have to first realize that you are a contributor to the village, as opposed to looking out, which we do. Unless you are a person of conceit, you are conceited, you very rarely see yourself. So you're not going to be in the mirror all day unless you're taking selfies. And even those selfies, as we discussed last show, you very rarely share the first one. It's like the 6th, 7th, or 9th one that you adjusted or even added a filter to before you share it with everybody. So you still don't technically see yourself, because you're not even sharing yourself. You're literally adjusting yourself and the lighting to try to get the self that you want the world to see when you're sharing then. Whereas when I say look at yourself, I'm saying no filter. I'm saying look at yourself in the nude. See everything about yourself. And this is metaphorically. You can look at yourself in the nude and be honest with yourself and make the necessary adjustments to the things that you don't like, which is very interesting. I see that all the time. People have they make adjustments instead of making adjustments. And what I mean by that is they'll go and get a bigger shirt, or say I can't, that doesn't look good on me, as opposed to, or I like that shirt, but that won't look good on me, or I like those pants, but that won't look good on me. Instead of making the necessary adjustments to fit that shirt the way that you want it to, they'll either buy the things that they sell to hide those things, as opposed to putting in the necessary work to get to where you want. Or they say, well, I don't want to do that. Or I don't like that. Or I want to grow dreads, but I don't want my hair looking messed up. Like, you have to go through the process. You cannot skip the process. You like the end, but there's always going to be the process. The beginning always sucks. The beginning is always hard. You have to go through the process. Oh my gosh, my teeth are messed up, but I don't like braces. Okay, well, you can either not like braces for 3 years and then you like your teeth, or you can not like your braces and never get your teeth fixed, and you always have to see that for the rest of your life. So you're gonna have to go through the process. However you slice it, and the process never is fun. You very rarely are gonna like it, but the process has to be had if you want to get the results that you want. So stop altering your clothing, stop altering your filters. Make the necessary. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Stop taking shortcuts. Like, you don't necessarily enjoy the process at first, but you enjoy the payoff. And if you go through enough successful processes, you start to welcome the process. And you can't even get to that if you don't stumble through the process of learning to accept the process. So I'm just saying, there's no shortcuts here. Like, don't.
But at the same token, those aren't even shortcuts. That's literally giving up. To do a filter, to do a little scrunch thing, to just increase the size. Girdle, whatever. That is not taking a shortcut. That's, for lack of a better term, that's cheating. It's cheating and false advertisement, to be perfectly honest with you. If you want to be technical,
There's no filter here today. This is no filter.
It's no filter. It is what it is. So it's kind of like, okay, I don't want you to see me like this, but you want to be with me.
Yeah, there's an unfortunate situation.
So ultimately, we're going to be together. So if I can't see you like this, then you don't want me to see you. You've been hiding you. What else are you hiding about you? You either are or you aren't. So no filter. So take me as I am. This way I know that I'm loved. But again, and I keep harping on this because the difficult part is where we move outwardly from ourselves. But I first want us to see ourselves in the actual village. You are a contributor to a village. So don't get so caught in the statement, all birds of a feather flock together, because that typically says that those people are going to influence you. But you are a contributor to the flock. You are a contributor to the village. So you have to also see yourself. Don't disregard yourself. We get so caught up in the reason how I got into the whole thing about filters and selfies, and the person that, unless they're conceited, they don't see themselves anyway. We're still talking about a physicality, but it just goes to show how it's easy to tell about someone else's flaws or issues, because we see outwardly. We don't see ourselves. So you have to be intentional about seeking yourself and seeking how you feel and look and think, because that will allow for you to see and notice how your village is actually influencing your thought process. And this is where we learn about people who are institutionalized, or they move, you say you can move them out of the ghetto, but you can't get the ghetto out of them. It's not true, but to a certain extent, there's something true about it, because they're taking the visual or the upbringing or the philosophies with them, which prevents them from evolving. But if you shift your pictures and you shift your environment, you shift the things that you are eating, because you are what you eat. But eating does not necessarily have to be food. Eating is the content in which you are receiving, whether it be audibly, whether it be visually, those things you're eating. So you are a product of what you eat. So be mindful of what you're eating. And this is where we're headed right now, because what I'm tending to notice that people aren't even realizing is, for example, I'm going to start with married couples and then I'll work my way out, or those who are couples. I see a lot of married couples who are having marital issues, but when you look at their pictures and stuff, the village that they're tending to hang around are single people. living single lives, and they're wondering why they're having issues with their married life because the village that they are spending time with is influencing their vision. So they are desiring that type of freedom. So, or they're desiring to come and go as they please, or desiring to make statements that they say in their household, and they're bringing that village or the philosophy of the village in which they are hanging out with to their marriage. I see you writing, so go ahead and share what your thoughts on that, Michelle, because I saw you dip your head, I saw you smile.
I'm gonna stick with this one that's right here, which is like, and you are an influencer, but you know that saying that says take stock of your 5 closest friends, and that's where you're gonna be, or that's who you're gonna be. And you ought to not be the most important person in your group, because then you may have tapped out and you need to level up. And all of those are contributing to what is your village. And I also had the thought while you were talking that we have a village, which is our core village, but we bump into and visit other villages. And so it's also possible to be influenced by the culture of someone else's village, like yours. Like people who are watching this on a regular occurrence are being impacted by our village, but they have a village. So they're visiting our village, their village. And that's what we're supposed to do, is and that's part of what you eat, right? Or what you consume. Is if you don't have it in your village, doesn't mean you can't go get it, and you don't have to give up your village to go get some information.
That's good. What makes that great is because I laugh because I can tell who's new to the village or who has yet to be impacted by the village, because they start mixing the teaching of this village with the village that they came from. So I listen, and by default, we go back to where our heart really lives, or what we really believe. So I'll hear people that just heard the teaching about individuality, and then they'll start the conversation with, well, you know how women are. You know how men are. I'm like, actually, I don't. Tell me more, please. But they'll swear that they grasp the concept, but they'll, by default, not even thinking about it, they go into what they were taught, which was actually contributing to their thought processes, philosophies, and in turn, the issues that they're having in their respective relationships, because they have these thought processes which are preventing them from either being effective in their communication or contributing to things in a manner that they're assumptive and never finding out about that particular individual because they made an assumption based off of gender or whatever things that they've learned from their previous village. I'm trying to consume you with the no love village as much as I can, so that, again,
like as much information as you can. It's like water. Take it back and feed the village.
Yeah. And I was speaking to a young lady yesterday, and she said, I'm learning that in my last 2 marriages, she said that I didn't know love.
That's profound.
I didn't know love. And I've literally said that in my teaching, that I want you to get to a place where you can recognize it and recognize where what it's not. So the only way that you can really recognize things is to also recognize what they are not, which is why the dating phase is so important, because how do you even know what you like or don't like until you're out there dating and realizing that, hey, I definitely didn't like that. That heartbreak was the worst. But I learned from it. I know what I don't like. And now I can make sure that I don't experience that again. But you have to be exposed to it to know that you like or you dislike it. It's like food. You don't know what your palate is until you kind of get a taste of it. So as we are moving and evolving, you have to actually partake in things that we typically are fearful of in order for us to really get to our destiny. So that I just, people by default, they go back to what their default is. And that's another thing. Character is revealed by circumstance. So you know who you truly are.
#9. Don't get this. Character is revealed by circumstance. That's the right one.
All right, so character is revealed by circumstance. When you have a very, very emotional state, this is why I tell people who are dating or engaged, who are just so in love, and I'm like, have y'all had an argument yet? A disagreement, fight, whatever? Like, no. I'm like, then I'm not saying that y'all are too young to be married in age. I'm saying if you all have not had an experience where you disagree with each other, you all are too early in the stage of trying to get married. And what I mean by that is because character is revealed by circumstance, you don't really know how a person feels about you until they're mad at you. I'm sorry. It's just the reality of what it is. Unless you've seen that person.
I try to avoid that at all costs. Like I try to avoid that at all.
Unless you've seen a person mad at you or disagree with you, you really don't know how they feel about you. And that's just the truth. That's why we love that song, Can You Stand the Rain? Because we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Michelle, we cannot hear you. It's like a windy, weird type of thing. It's like really airy for some reason. Talk. Oh, that's perfect. I don't know what just happened.
I'm talking.
But you're fine. You're fine. In the air, I don't know what that was. It's like a little a mouse or something was by your by your mic just blowing, like it's trying to whisper sweet nothings in our ear. But Can You Stand the Rain is a song by New Edition, basically saying, you know, like anybody can deal with the sunny day, but when it gets hard, when it gets tough, that's when the true character of a person comes out. People can act all cool, calm, and collected when things are cool. But when things hit the fan, when it gets hard, when it gets tough, that's when you really see who they are. And so I never, like, I know some people say, well, you're too young to get married. Like, age or wisdom has no prerequisite. But if you all have not had a disagreement,
wisdom does come from your village, does contribute to the level of wisdom that you have. And the more intentional you are about cultivating the residents in your village, it accelerates or decelerates the amount of wisdom that you have, and or whether you can sustain, right? Like you definitely get to cultivate. So like family, you don't get to pick family, but your village, you do get to pick some roses and stick them in there with some of the weeds. And not the family's weeds, but you do get to cultivate your village. It's not just solely what's thrown at you and what you just by default have. You get to, especially the older you get, I think we even get more intentional about what I will and won't have in my close to me, in my proximity. It's the difference between associates and friends and / family. So, you know, and to your point, like to earlier, is like you are very intentional, and you've told us several times about how you cultivate your day. To be able to even put on the armor, so to speak, or just protect your mind when you're out there, because you truly have to kind of inoculate yourself from some of the things you're going to find yourself exposed to. So you can't, just because you're exposed to it doesn't mean you have to take it in. Exactly. And that is a choice and some self-discipline that you have to kind of engage in to be able to manage that.
Most certainly, you know, they say, you know, a boat is perfectly safe in water. Matter of fact, it was created to sit and float in water. It's not until that water gets in the boat that it sinks. So I'm not saying yeah, I'm not saying that you can't be around certain things, but you have to be mindful of the environment in which you're in, and also as to whether the environment is getting inside of you. And I say it all the time, you know, if you keep going to a barbershop, you're gonna eventually get a haircut. So if you consistently go to certain environments,
at least
if you keep going into certain environments, you're going to eventually start adopting what's going on in that particular environment, whether you like it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. So it's best to just not be in that particular environment. And I stress the whole your village is your vision. And I started with the village being a place that you reside or you typically go to frequently or consistently to get your nurturing and your information from. So I'm not saying that you cannot have or you shouldn't have single friends. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that you should not be going and consistently hanging out with single friends if you're married with the mindset that this is going to assist in your marriage. Anything that you should be doing should be with the intent of being around things that are going to contribute to the health of whatever it is that you have going on in your life. And being around a single person consistently, going clubbing and doing the single life thing is not going to be something that is going to help in your marriage. You're going to start thinking single thoughts. You're going to start trying to move like a single person when you're just not that person. That is not your setup. And you're sitting there wondering why you're having issues in that relationship is because you're bringing a village philosophy that is not conducive to your particular relationship, to your home. What are you thinking, Michelle?
I'm thinking that that's part of the responsibility of understanding the noise that's going on in your head. Like if you're say I'm not married, so, but I want to be married at some point. So do I want to be able to get exposed to more married people or more single people? And if I do want to get around married people, do I want, the disappointed married people? Or do I want the happy married people? Because I do know that as they advise me about my singleness, they're going to be coming from their own experience. So you got to know that going in. You can't expect somebody who's unhappy to have a fully pure space to come from. But that doesn't mean what they're saying is not true. It just means understand what you're coming to the conversation with and what you're getting from the conversation. And then that quality time we talked about, which is, that time by yourself, is time to filter and weave it together into your truth. But I think that's part of our responsibility.
That's good. Now, what's even more of your responsibility is, because clearly I'm saying if you're married, you shouldn't be hanging necessarily with single people. And when I say hang means that you are literally setting your schedule and going to be around a person. I'm not saying that, okay, this is my environment, because typically in a village, especially as children, you have no control over your environment. So you kind of have to survive your environment. Whereas adults, we can actually get the desire to have something better and move from our particular environment, making the necessary steps. If we really, really want it bad enough, if we really have been exposed to something that makes us want more, which is what I'm hoping that our teaching is doing for you. Now, you would also be irresponsible if you decide, okay, well, I've learned my lesson from that, so now let me go find couples. And you don't find a couple that has a lifestyle or aspirations of what you want as a couple. Because you can find a couple. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the information that you're getting from their village is going to be conducive to yours or even contributing to yours, because you might hear stuff that he or she is saying to her and you try to bring that mess to the house and it adds more issues or it even contributes to the issues because you're assuming that I want that type of lifestyle, not realizing that other person's miserable. It might look like it's working, but they are a couple of words or a couple of years away from separation and in turn divorce. Interestingly enough, just yesterday, because I mentor for the boys, because the boys that I mentor, they have this thing, a lot of stuff with loyalty and getting information from people and just going with the information that is shared. So yesterday I did it's a physical telephone game. I had them line up in a line, a straight line, shortest to tallest. And I started from the back of the line and I had everyone facing the back of each other's head. But I started in the back of the line and I made the person in the back look at me. And what I did was I said, I'm not going to speak to you, but I am going to do some movements whereby I want you to turn around after I share my movements, tap the other person in front of you, share the movements I share with you, with them, and then just keep that particular movement going down the line. So I made a gesture, like I looked hungry, I rubbed my belly, and then I reached over grabbed a sandwich, bit it, and started to dance. I just did a quick two-step after I bit into the sandwich, and I was excited about finding the meal was the thought process. By the time it got to the front of the line, which is probably about 16 young men, it was just like they bit something and just smiled. It was the weirdest thing, and we recorded it. And so when I had them all turn around, I showed the person in the front and all the people in the middle what it is that I actually did. And they're like, that is nothing like what was shared. And my thought process, and I shared with them, I said, so you all continue to respond to people that share stuff with you, not knowing what the source that gave them the information from started with. And we are moving and maneuvering. And when you're getting into these relationships without the context in which they're doing stuff, you can easily be influenced to doing the wrong thing. And I said, it's just like the whole story. We shared this with the young lady with the ham, right? Where her man saw her cut the butt of the ham and throw it in the trash. And then she started cooking. And he's like, hey, babe, what in the world? You just wasted a whole bunch of ham. And she's like, no, this is the way that I was taught by my mother or whatever. This is how you cook ham. He was like, well, I think you just wasted a whole bunch of ham. And time had passed. She finally got to her mom and asked her, well, why was it that she cut the butt of the ham? And her mom said, oh, well, that's easy, baby. Because every time I bought a ham, it was the pot was too small to hold the ham. So I cut it so that it could fit, so that it could be cooked.
Years later, we still cutting the butt off.
Years later. So oftentimes when we get information from people without the proper context, we could possibly be ruining stuff, missing out on stuff, and adopting stuff that just is not conducive to especially this day and age, which is what I had to finally conclude when I started troubleshooting my marriage, when I was having issues in my marriage, how the philosophies and stuff that were taught that we adopted were not necessarily truth. They were true at the time frame in which they were taught, and it made sense then. We were in a small pan. So as our pans evolved, it didn't make sense to do things the way that we had adopted them, and it actually contributed to the issues that we were having, which is the loss of intimacy, friendship, and things of that nature. Go ahead, Michelle.
I think that's what we're talking about when, we're talking about that quiet time with yourself, is you get a lot of information during the course of the day, especially from your village. And then you have to compare that against your own belief system, right? Because your influence is driven by your belief system, and your actions are driven by your belief system. But what you believe can change over time based on new information. Although that doesn't necessarily change your core truths, but context is everything, for information anyway. And I think that this conversation, the conversations that we have, is meant to kind of dig down and sift through and challenge status quo and cause like some personal reflection. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to change your perspective, but the exercise of just thinking about things differently is about taking stock and making sure your village is strong. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is a strong village that can raise up and support other villages, because it's meant to be contagious. We are supposed to be partners with each other and to help each other.
So to just add to where I was going with that, basically, if you find someone that you aspire to have your life, or you see something that worked out in the manner in which the person presented in front of you, and you're like, oh, I like how she responded to him, I'm gonna do that with my wife. You might want to ask, well, why did he do that way? And what made her respond to him that way before you decide that that's something that I'm just going to start doing. Because as we've discussed many multiple shows ago, words are seeds. Things that we've done or are doing are seeds. So you might see the response of a harvest whereby you have yet to plant a seed, and that was not going to necessarily work for you. So you might need to be taught about how to cultivate a seed that will result in that, as opposed to you going and just trying to pick up where someone who has grown an oak tree is enjoying the shade, and you're trying to go home and experience. And again, you also have to be mindful of the world that we live in. All these posts and stuff, these happy and lovely people with filters and things of that nature, that's not necessarily their truth either. This is why I always share the stories about Michelle and our 11-year, it's been about 11-year time span, the consistency in which she's seeing with my relationship behind the scenes, how I respond and things of that nature. So it's not me putting up a facade. This is.
Let me just speak on that 11 years.
Go ahead.
This is talking about no love being a culture, being something that's pervasive and contagious, and just helping people to know love. And I will say I'm a benefactor of your village, because it wasn't immediate, and it was with a lot of clarifying questions and with a lot of how do you do that and why do you do that, and yeah, you seem very calm and you seem very steady and your family seems very loving, and that is that really truth? So yeah, coming into your house and seeing people like, this is how they really are, is this how they did the book says they are? Because the book is good, but are they really like this? So and having disagreements, right? Like, so we've had moments where we just were like, I don't agree, but that that's the goal, to get you to giggle. But the consistency, again, this is about the two villages, right? So we have two villages, and they've influenced each other in the most positive way. And it took time, and it wasn't an overnight thing, but we've been able to help each other. And that's the goal, is once you find love, it breathes its own, harvest.
Yeah, most certain. Great example of what we're talking about. Like my daughter and my baby boy now, like they got their report cards. When they give their report cards, they know this is going to come across wrong, but it is the truth. I don't care what their grade is. All I'm looking for is the comment section. I'm not thinking about their grades. It's like, what are the teachers saying about your behavior, your citizenship, and things of that nature? I personally feel like I'm responsible for their education, so I'm really not thinking about what their actual grades are. Half the time, I'm reteaching what they're being taught in school anyway, and telling them, okay, this is how you play the game. This is what they want, but the truth is this, and that's just the reality of what it is. So when they share, it's like all I care is the actual comments. My wife, on the other hand, what she'll do is she's looking at them grades, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, straight A's, honor roll, or whatever." And with that, she's posting. I'm always the behind the scenes person. Even today, my wife, my son, he was working on some kind of math, and she brought the math up, and she helped him get the answer. And I was like, you just helped him get the answer, but he doesn't know what he's doing. And she was like, well, what do you? I was like, that's not how you teach. That all you did was help him get the particular answer, but if he does not understand what he did, what you just did not help him. And she was like, well, what is? And she asked another question, and he was just made up some random stupid number. And I was like, this is what I'm talking about. But we think we have these wins, we have these takeaways, and we think we have these wins, and we don't expect what we expect to know that we really did get what it is that we were taught or understood. And so my son, interestingly enough, he's only 6. He knew he could not wait because he just got Citizen of the Month last month. He could not wait. She said it took you forever, it seems to him, to get home. So he said, Dad, come here. Smile. Come here. Dad, come here. I came in. He showed me the Citizenship Award, and he's extremely excited because he knows I care about citizenship. What gives you promotions, what gets you networking, which gives you people that want to do for you is service and citizenship. I've never seen a GPA or a grade or whatever on a resume. I've never seen that necessarily get you the job. And to be perfectly honest with you, everything that they teach you is going to kind of cookie cut you to where your resume and everything looks the same. So how are you really standing out? But thank good for Queen's moves, because she's gonna help you to accentuate your personal unique contributions to the world, so that you will stand out and you will thrive in your respective place. So you need to understand the context and when you are adopting someone's philosophies, thought process, or movements. Just like my son, my wife thought she taught him something. She didn't teach him nothing. She helped him get that one particular answer.
That like check a deliverable, but that didn't take a lesson.
So I was like, no, he needs to understand the concept of what it is that he's doing. And I always tell my children, never study for the test, study for understanding. If you understand it, you'll always pass the test. And oftentimes we try to study to pass the test, get that one answer right. And it's like, well, do you understand how you got the answer right? So upon your selection, even when it comes to dating or your coaching, they should have what it is that you aspire to have. Before you start adding to this village, you should be interviewing them to find out if they should be in addition to your village. And upon your interviewing, it should first start by their actions, because your actions are really what it is that you feel. And then from there, that should intrigue you enough to ask them the context in which their actions are being made. Where did it come from? What made you do it that way? What made you respond that way? Could you give me the philosophy behind your thought process so that you can start working on that and then adopt the understanding of it so that you can duplicate it? Go ahead, Michelle.
So I wanted you to go back to the vision part. So we talked about the village. I think we understand the core content of the intention of what you meant by village, but how is village and vision linked?
How is village and vision linked?
In your mind, trying to present this evening, what is the link between vision and village?
You mean your own personal vision, or what it is that you see in that village?
Yeah, you said your village is your vision. So I'm assuming that it's the way that you see the world or where you're going is directly impacted by the people that you're in communication with or in close contact with.
Got it. Okay, so notice in the beginning of this show, I said it's very dangerous for your village to influence your thoughts, which is why you should visit as many villages as you can so that you can really kind of get the grand scheme of things, or have an entire picture, so to speak, so that you are actually making an educated decision as to what you want your village to be. Otherwise, a good example, when I first started the mentoring program here in Virginia, 80% of the young men had never been out of the city of Norfolk, Virginia. 80% of all the boys that I had never been out of the city of Norfolk. That means everything about in the Hampton Roads area is pretty much 20 minutes apart. Every city, from a connected standpoint, is pretty much 20 minutes apart. They've never been to Virginia Beach, the actual Virginia Beach. They had never been to Chesapeake. They had never been to Suffolk. They had never been to any of the other places, which to me means, because our focus is typically in the project area, it means as they're growing up, all they're wondering is, which one of these projects am I going to live in? Their exposure is so minute and is so minuscule that their capacity to even grow and receive something better is not even there, because they haven't been exposed to it. So your vision is a direct reflection of your village, because this is all you're exposed to and all you think it is. I've been blessed that at 6, because of an unfortunate act with my father, that I was forced to live in the island of Haiti from 6 to 7 years of age, which forced me to take my life experience there and bring it back to United States, which made me question things that were taught, because they did not align with the experiences that I had due to my exposure. And even with that, I'm a city kid from New Jersey who goes all the way to Haiti, who comes all the way to Virginia, and none of that goes together. And it caused me to question everything. But had I stayed in the city of New Jersey, that would have been all I knew, which is typically what all people know. And which is why they so easily adopt things as truth, because they're putting it up against the truth that they see. Crazy thing about it is, I hate to get all spiritual on you, but the reality is, this is the temporal aspect and the falseness of everything. The spiritual is the real stuff. And what I mean by spiritual is, okay, so a saxophone, that is physical. You can see it. And if you take it from me, I'm out of a saxophone. If I have a saxophone and you take my saxophone, I'm without a saxophone, and I'm probably going to be sad that you took my saxophone. But if you have a saxophone, and that is actual, the natural, what we consider the natural, and natural is very limited. Now, spiritual, if I have my saxophone and I teach you how to play a tune on your saxophone, sound, that's spiritual. We both can enjoy in the same thing that we just shared. Spiritual is infinite. Love is infinite. And we think that it's condensed into natural things. And when things are in the natural, in the eyes that we see, they're so limited. And we can't, and we think things are the way they are, and they really aren't. So what I'm trying to teach and cultivate in our culture or our village is spiritual. And it leaves you for infinite possibilities, especially when it comes to love and experience. And what the enemy will try to do, again, I hate to get spiritual, is make you look at what you see and conclude that that is all there is. So when we start to shift and change to the spiritual, in the manner in which we are able to receive from an infinite standpoint, he'll try to make you look at what you see and say, well, it's not working. That's why I keep teaching seeds, because if you foolishly plant a seed and you say it's not working, you're the fool. So I make sure that as far as our metaphors and analogies are concerned, they're realistic to what it would take for the cultivation of the change in which you're looking for. So to think that things are going to change immediately, especially when you're looking at things from a physical standpoint to the spiritual, instantaneously, it's not going to happen. That's why when you see me, you're like, well, he doesn't get upset or he doesn't get emotional. It's because I'm not seeing it. I know you got all excited about the physical, what you saw, but I see it spiritually. So yeah, they took away my saxophone, but I still have a song in me, and I can still appreciate. Yeah. So as far as your vision is concerned, your vision it's predicated and it's determined by your village, because your village, which is why it's important to read and expose yourself to as much, is what is your limit. Your village is your limit. Your village is your limit. So you're limited to the things that you're exposed to, and you're exposed to your village. So you should be very, very
I think that goes to my territory, right? So I think this goes to the ability to enlarge your territory, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there is an opportunity with whatever village you were born into to extend the boundaries, to moving and growing, to incorporate new ideas, new people, and new exposing yourself to just new things and different things, so that you can become more wise. And not at a rushing pace. And I love that you said that, instant gratification and just looking for instant solutions isn't necessarily an indicator of success or failure. That time is part of the process, and it's okay not to the cure tomorrow. I don't have to have the answer tomorrow.
No, and it's crazy. Like, people Like they'll gain weight in 15, 20 years. Then they decide I'm too big. Then they start exercising for 15, 20 days, and they're like, it's not working. Like, you worked 15 years to get that body. Like, it's going to take time to get the new body or the new thing that you're aspiring to have. And we just get so.
Love. If you learned how to love a certain way, and it took you a lifetime to learn how to love that way, there is not, unless an act of God, instant healing, which can happen. But it's going to take you some time to unpack what you learned, unlearn it, and reposition yourself.
Exactly. All right. So let's look at it like this. Let's look at it like this. So you're headed to a specific destination, and so you're driving. Matter of fact, you're speeding. You're going way past the speed limit to head to your certain destination, only to find out that you were speeding the wrong way. You were hauling tail the wrong way, headed to this specific location. So what you have to do is now turn around to go back to the proper location, which means you have to speed back to your original destination. So you pass the start point in the wrong direction. You got to get back to the starting point just to get to the right path to get to the right destination. That's double the trip. So we're trying to prevent this trip from being taking as long as it's going to take. But as we stated earlier, the process is the process. You cannot escape the process. You can want straight teeth, but you got to get the braces. If you don't like braces, then I mean, like, it's 3 years of a process.
You really want to go that way?
Yes, it's 3 years of a process. You might want the dreads, but I don't like the beginning part. I don't want the little small, little
trees,
tight little maggots or whatever they want to call it, whatever you decide to call them. Yeah, like, I don't like that look. Well, that's the process. You either want it or you don't. I want to lose weight, but I don't want the aching and the pain and whatever, or I don't want to start eating this way. Well, then stay that way. Well, and just keep buying bigger clothes. Do whatever you want. Keep hiding it. And then you have a choice. There's a consequence. What you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. What you say no to, you're saying yes to something else. There's always a consequence to your actions. So you're going to have to live with it, because in the end, it's your decision. You are the only common factor when it comes to your village. You are the only constant. You're always a part of your village. So you're the one that's going to.
You are there.
You go. Wherever you go, you are there.
So, wherever you go.
That's exactly right. So all I do, and I'm gonna be this is what my education looks like. And what's so funny about this is there's no person that can say that they know who my village is. They know who. Well, I know who Eddie hangs out with. No one can do that. Because there's no one that you can say I hang out with. Now, my question to you is, if someone can say, oh, if they see you and they say, well, where's what you call it, or where is he or she at? My question to you is, if that is who that go-to person is, how if they mistaken you for them, as far as the character and morals and values.
Is that what we talking about?
Would you be okay with someone mistaking your character, morals, values, who you are collectively as a person, being confused with the person that they automatically say, well, where is she at? Or where is he at? Would you be okay with that? And if you're not, it's time for you to purge your village.
I want to add to that, because I had because that is a good question. I have a friend who could appear to be questionable, right? And so there was a time that they had wanted to make a decision to do something, and they told me, they said, the reason I didn't do it is because I'm associated with you, and I don't want anybody to look back and say that I did this and they know that I know you. So I didn't choose to do that. And that's the type of influence that we want to have. Is it's not so much do I have to purge you, but I have to show up who I am to make sure that my influence is a stronger influence.
And notice Notice I didn't say purge them. I said purge yourself
I
of
gotta
them.
do the work. Sure.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm holding up a standard for what
Yeah.
I believe my village ought to be, because
That's right.
people tend to self-select. You don't have to always tell somebody or hold up your phone in service and be like, I'm taking these numbers out my phone right now. Because if you hold up a standard, people tend to self-select. They will choose to or not to hang out with you based on who you present yourself to be. Because #9, your character is revealed by circumstance. And they will choose whether they want to associate with your character or not, and decide what circumstance they want to be a participant in.
That's exactly right. So another question is, are you conforming to them or are they conforming to you? And if you are conforming to them, are you conforming up or are you conforming down? Because you should, as you stated, be selecting people that will allow for you to evolve into your better self or your aspired self. So it's not a problem to conform to better things. But if you are conforming to things that misrepresent who you want to be or what you aspire to have, then you are doing yourself a disservice.
And there's no end to the amount of evolution we can do as humans. We are geniuses. We have the capacity. Our bodies hold enough electricity to power a town. We are incredible beings. And why are we limiting ourselves? Why are we not pushing past the boundaries and exploring new things and trying new things and checking ourselves and growing past our pain? Because pain is just an indicator that there's something that needs to change. So why not lean into it and fix what needs to be changed and move on? And knowing that there's another pain that's going to come, but that's just an opportunity to change again. And I'm just happy in my life, happy in Jesus.
You know what? I'm glad that you brought that up because it's going to go back to the beginning. You are the beginning of your village. Time with self is imperative because you are the main contributing factor to the result of your village. Now, everything that I teach is always self-reflecting. And the reason why I do that is because I believe, it's my beliefs, that we are infinite beings, meaning all of the answers that we need, know, and want are inside of ourselves, which I think is also the reason why the enemy, again, hate to get spiritual, wants you to seek outside of yourself because all of the answers are within. There's absolutely nothing that you've heard on this show that you did not already know. It just linked to something that you could relate to that you already knew, which was why you had an aha moment or the realization. All I'm getting you to do indirectly is to see inside what the truth is, which you already know. We're all connected and we're all beings who already know everything, but we don't take the time necessary to seek everything, which is all inside of us. We're always looking outwardly for all the answers that we have inwardly, and that's what has us confused and missing out on opportunities for growth and evolution. And that is such a powerful and empowering truth that I want to give you all, because we so look for validation from external persons and things, when if we begin to realize that we're already valid and grow from there, we will attract the proper persons that are assigned to us, and we will also experience true love because now we have been chosen for who we are. And then I was just at a wedding this past weekend, and the brother did a wonderful speech, and he said, I was always concerned about whoever ended up with my brother. I was concerned that no one would ever marry my brother because he was always comfortable in his own skin. He never adjusted. And he said, and my brother is weird or strange or whatever, something to that nature. So when you found my brother and you loved on him, I knew that you were the one because you accepted him for who he was. And I'm like, this is the epitome of with what some people would call finding your soulmate or what have you is because you were true to you, it caused you to attract who was right for you. And because of that, it evolved into this beautiful story that they were all able to share with all of us at this particular wedding. And you could just sense that this was a good foundational wedding. You can see how the two of them, just the balance of them, and how like they flowed together and replaced where the other person was lacking. And it was just a great movement. And that's what love looks like. But we're so caught up in trying to look a certain way to win someone over that we lose ourselves in the process and lose love as well. It's a trick because we're so caught up in what we see outwardly instead of falling in love with what's already inside of us. Go ahead, sis.
I just thinking from a professional way. I agree with it. In a professional way, it love looks like finding your complement in the workplace to achieve a common goal, and not worrying about your weaknesses, but celebrating someone else's strengths, and the places that they complement you, and that's why I say, the lessons that we talk about are applicable across a lot of different platforms. And the one thing that I was thinking while you were talking about how we tend to look outside of ourselves for validation is sometimes we tend to try to make our village be our validation, right? Like, um, because of who likes me or who I'm around, that makes
Yeah,
me a person. But it's actually the reverse of that. It's who I am is is more important than who likes me.
that's good. You shouldn't be using your village for validation. You should use your village for motivation. Um, uh,
I'm out.
oh my
Good
gosh.
night. Using your village for validation. You're using your village for motivation. Hashtag good moment.
Which means if your village is not motivating you to be better, then you are in the wrong village and you need to shift and adjust accordingly. Um, so if you're single, you should be around persons who love and enjoy themselves.
Singleness. Singleness is great.
Exactly. There's absolutely nothing wrong with single. I did single very, very well. I'm doing marriage very, very well. I don't regret either one of them. I don't regret either one of them. Matter of fact, when I do visit, or I've been known to visit my frat brothers or friends that were living single lives, and I'm like, this sucks. Y'all are doing this wrong. Y'all are supposed to make me not want to go home. I don't even want to be here. Like, how do y'all? This is
This,
not
this right here.
exactly. You're doing this way wrong. Like I should envy y'all. Like right now, I see why y'all want what I have and why y'all are out there. And that's the irony in all of this. It's the people that you're trying to aspire to be like with you married folk trying to be around these single people, and they're out there doing that to try to get what you got. And as soon as they find the right person, they're gonna cut you off and be all up in their face
Be
because
booed
they
up.
finally found what you already had. But you're not cultivating and doing the necessary work to make yours become what it's supposed to be, which is why you're envious of what they have. And if you're loving yourself and you found someone that loves their self, and you two are living harmoniously as individuals, loving each other, then there should be nothing to be envious about.
Man,
Because if
won't
you
even.
have, and I know Michelle can finish this, if you have a marriage problem, it's because you have a single problem. if you don't love yourself, you're not gonna love anybody that's with you. I can assure you, and they're definitely not gonna love you either because they are a mirror
They won't even
of
know
how
you.
you look
You
at
haven't
yourself.
shown up. You sent your representative. I mean, you can say, right? I need this
Exactly.
to see me, like in all of
Exactly.
my glory and crazy, so that I know that you have this.
People are mirrors of who you are. Those who are in your life, they're just mirrors of who you are. So if you have a lot of conflict, it's because there's a lot of conflict in you. that you need to hash out and fix. So
Hold on.
yeah.
If you got a lot of conflict, it's because you got a lot of conflict in you.
This is why when Michelle saw me, and she came and met my family, all she saw was reflections, little reflections of me. Because
and I am going to endorse this 1,000%. His wife Zanetta and I get along fine. His children are just like he describes. His house is actually peaceful, and still fun. Like it's still fun, but it's very peaceful. And I say that to endorse the fact that what you're teaching and what you're talking about, you are walking out in shoe leather every day. I've known you a long time, so I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly, and all of it's good because it's all a lesson. And I am privileged, and I want to do that for others. I know I've always been told that I'm a mentor, and people kind of like you're a great teacher or whatever. But it's because you don't want to be inconsistent. You want to be the same person at home that you are out in the street. I mean, I think some of the we talked. I actually had called my family together and I was like, I don't want to be out here talking about love and relationships and who I am and not have been the loving parent to you. I don't, whatever I may be missing, I want to be, to give you the space to hold me accountable to that. And so, again, you're who you are inside is reflected in the people that are around you.
This is true. And I first of all, I thank you for that endorsement. Um, and I just, it's for those of you who do this, have all of these masks that you have to flip and put on, man. It is exhausting. You need to find a person that you are happy with in yourself that you can be everywhere. And I promise you, it just makes, because you don't have to remember, oh, I'm this hat. Oh, I'm that hat. I'm this. No, find a peaceful place, and you won't find peace until you find the place of who you are. You won't find, until you find yourself, you're not going to find peace anyway. But when you get to that place, when you love the you that you were created to be, and you just are, you're that everywhere, that makes life so much easier. And that makes your experiences so much more consistent because you're not putting up different masks and facades.
A lot of energy wasted. And I have to tell you, having been someone who wore several masks and was trying to be a lot of different people to a lot of different people, once you take that off, there's so much more energy you had to give to life because it's tiring. It's draining. When you just kind of I call it integration. I finally became an integrated person.
That's good.
All these representatives. I finally became like, this is me. And on Monday, Tuesday through Saturday, Sunday, this is me. And I can do all the things I was doing before.
I can attest to that because we had to work on that with Michelle. She would put on these masks. I'm like, why did you do that?
Or she be needed. I was trying to be who they needed, not me. I was trying to be who they needed.
But in the irony and what I had to help her realize is they came to you because you were who they needed, and that's when we started. She started being able to allow for herself to just be you. I'm like, that's how you got the interview because you were you before you knew or thought before you shifted to this. Oh, well, I'm his girlfriend now, so I got to act like this. I'm like, no, you became his girlfriend. Or he was interested in you because of who you were. What are you doing? Why did you do that? Like we had these conversations, but when she fell in love with herself, which is what people were buying into and endorsing and falling in love with, that's when things just started getting easier for her. And that's what we want for you all. So, in conclusion, any concluding words, Michelle?
I'm gonna give you your own words back. when you watch what you are watching and listening to, because that leads to what you think about, which leads to your desires, which leads to what directions you take. And I added that will determine what you achieve. So what you think about definitely links to what you achieve. And of course, our #9 for the night, which is character is revealed in your circumstance. Amen. When we do it. And you don't seek validation in your village, you seek motivation in your village.
That's so good. Um, I apologize again for the energy. I really am struggling with this migraine. I'm about to take some more drugs so that I can just pass out. But I really appreciate y'all's patience with me. I appreciate the comments and the energy that you all give me so that I could have given me so that I can or could get through this particular show. But I did not want to leave you all without this.
I want to thank
You said
everybody.
what?
I wanted to thank everybody on the watch party because I tried to do a watch party this time. I wanted to thank everybody who joined in and #9 and liked stuff while it was going on. Tammy B. Owens, appreciate you, and a couple of other cool friends that have joined in. But thanks so much. I hope that you enjoyed this. It is a labor of love and a true privilege to be able to share the lessons that we have learned.
I appreciate you all giving me a platform to share what has been poured into me, what drives me to wake up in the morning. This is truly my God-given purpose. This is truly what keeps me up at night. You all, those who I have yet to see, I pray for you. Those who I do see, I pray for you. My job is to be a servant to all of you, especially because we're all connected. And if we can all get ourselves together, that means that one another are all taken care of. And when you all eventually touch my kids, my family, my children's children, they will already be taken care of because of the seeds that we're planting now. So I'm looking forward to the harvest that No Love is going to produce in the near future. As we stated, we are decreasing divorce rate today, or decreasing tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. And if we're not purposefully cultivating the village in which we are being incubated in, we are setting ourselves for some serious failure. So you have to first take the time to study the village that's within you that makes you want to even look at that person or aspire to have that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are subtly making you like shift from what actually is supposed to be to what, I mean, just think about it. Just grasp this concept. I know a show that was very, 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 very popular, which it went off the air maybe a season or two ago, which was Scandal. Subtly, people are cheering on infidelity. Like they're hoping that the president gets with what's Olivia Pope or what have you. Like these are things that are slowly being put in your face.
About that too. I was like, am I really
and we're rooting for it. But what you're doing is you're kind of being desensitized to the type of relationship that is supposedly or going to be acceptable to you. You've literally just given yourself a vision of what things are. Now you're wondering why you don't trust your man, or he doesn't trust you, and all of this stuff, especially Queen's move. You talking about being the boss, how a man is looking at you like, wow, she out here with guys and whatever. I wonder what she's doing with the power guys. So it's a lot of things that are subtly being planted in you, and you're not even realizing it. And for some reason now you're cheering on stuff that you claim you don't agree with or you have a problem with. And that's the subtleties of the physical, so that they can downplay your spiritual and take and devour you, like, and take over you. And then you think you're walking in love and you're walking in lust and all kinds of stuff, and you're walking in manipulation, and you don't even realize or recognize what love is, which is what we're here for. So you can actually see it, you can understand it, it's tangible to you. Again, I apologize for my energy being low, but I'm struggling from this migraine in which you all have assisted me through. You all have been a shot, so to speak, to allow for me to manage through it. But I'm indebted to you all because of just the wool that's over your eyes. I see what you all are watching and experiencing on a daily basis, and what you're being taught is love. Because I was that person. I had to deal with it, and it literally was destroying my marriage and my relationships. And I just don't want that for you all. That's it. I had to get through it so that you can get through it. And I had to study it so that I can teach it so that you could get through it. And as long as you all continue to take a hold of what it is that I'm here to teach you, I can assure you that it will evolve you into a evangelist of love. So with that being said, I, as usual, appreciate your minds and time. I love y'all until we see each other next week. Y'all take care. Peace.